Feels like we're hitting the absolute limit of what a best of one format can handle. This looks like such a W take, and it doesn't feel like it's got that high of, what's the word, positive rating. Normally when there's almost as many comments as upvotes, it's controversial, but I feel like this is completely true, right? It feels like we're hitting the absolute limit of what a best of one format can handle. Every top deck now requires such hyper-specific outs that do literally nothing against any other deck that it's physically impossible to deck build anymore. Malice is functionally unbeatable unless you resolve C, Fua, Meow, Lancia, but 2 out of 4 of those just don't affect Ryzeo, and 3 out of 4 are bricks going first. Ryzeo cares more about Prulia, Veiler, Improm on Duel, but Malice doesn't summon from hand basically ever, and they have infinite free targeting dodges. Well, I mean, March Hare and Bestial is kind of like your only real extender, right? So it's not like Prulia does nothing. That's kind of untrue. Maybe it's like I think like overall he's right, but I think maybe this third line is what got him not as many updates, because this is sort of just objectively incorrect. It's just ladder. Yeah, but that's kind of like the issue that is being brought up here. Like best of one, you can see, is approaching a situation where it's so frustrating and so untenable for a lot of players, especially those who come with a TCG background, that it's getting to the point where if you haven't already quit, you know, as a TCG player, as an example, that it's at its most polarizing. It's when you have two heavyweight decks that have vastly different outs to them, that you're getting the worst aspect of best of one, which is variance. And the variance is like, well, I drew Lancia against Ryzeo, or I drew, you know, Imperm against Malice, which is kind of just like a nothing card. So, yeah, I don't know. I get, like, the frustration here. Or just say screw it and play stun, then no one's happy, yourself included. Throw some True Dracos in there and you can pretend you're playing an archetype. Now you're sounding too reasonable. An archetype in my stun slot pile? That's a deck. Wow, real stun discourse going on down there. It's not Master Duel alone who's in that situation, but Yu-Gi-Oh! In general in today's format. That's just not true, right? The power creep has reached its limit. You basically can't break a board without non-engine going second, even against a non-top tier deck. Ooh, I haven't played that much TCG recently, but I feel like you can get a decent amount done with just engine currently in TCG. The problem is, like, yeah, staples are kind of necessary to be able to do anything, but this is like nothing like new. Like, you've always needed like staples and defensive cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! There have been formats where pure engine is like doable, but by and large, for a long time, you are using non-engine staples to win your games in TCG for many years. The beginning of Master Duel, you either drew Duster for Eldritch or Maxi for Drytron, and nothing has changed. I mean, you're still getting, like, Maxi value against Eldritch. People think that, you know, you just drop it on, like, the first summon on their turn. Like, no, if you save Maxi for your own turn against Eldritch, you're getting value. You're still getting the Sanguine summon, you're getting the Conquistador, potentially Huaquero. Like, you're still going, like, +1 or 2. People were just using it kind of weirdly. Anyway. Still viable without non-engine, like, back to the 22 Sword Soul branded, in my opinion, was the most balanced meta in Master Duel history, without all the floodgates, of course. So it's really funny that you have to caveat this by saying without the floodgates. As someone who did pretty well that format, let me tell you, floodgates were massively relevant throughout that time period. Hugely relevant, okay? So nothing's really changed in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just like people's perception and nostalgia, depending on their bias towards decks or archetypes or their own personal performances during those time periods, is going to cloud your judgment. Nothing's really changed in that regard in Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, if anything, TCG's in a better place than it's ever been. I like Best of One because I can get my fix for the day and then leave, but there should be a change. I used to play a game called Dragon Ball Legends, and the standard game mode was a one-match 3v3, but they also had game mode where it was best of 3 using different fighters for each match. At this point, Master Duel should include something like that. If you queue up with the deck for best of 1, you gain 1 win towards your rank up, or you could queue up with your deck and side deck and potentially win up to 2 wins towards your rank up. I think ultimately, like, Master Duel being a mobile game that you can quote-unquote quickly jump into and play on a train ride and then log off when you reach work or something is the direction and design choice that they've intentionally made to be the way that they want you to approach ranked. And let's be real, they're not going to change anything after 3 years. Because why would they break a model that's working really well? On top of that, I think it's something that could maybe be added as like another game mode or a festival or something. Now, the closest thing that I feel like to an unironically good balanced format was, do you guys remember the Duel trial where you queued up with a deck if you won the coin flip and a deck if you lost the coin flip? That is an interesting approach. Now, you can end up in situations where you basically just play a bunch of blowouts and stuff, but I don't know. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a decent idea. Should it be the standard going forward for the Master Duel game? Like, probably not. But this idea that if you lose a coin flip, you have a card, you have a deck, and if you win the coin flip, you have this deck. I think that does lend itself to some sort of, strategy and alleviation of variance. I think the biggest issue with it realistically is like, see, a lot of you are just saying like tenpai and like it wasn't fun and things like that, but ultimately it was a dual trial, right? There wasn't really a lot of time to like sit and innovate and solve the format. I'm sure with enough practice and thinking and pondering over like the actual format itself, it could maybe end up in a situation where it is like super fun, because it's easy to just jam tenpai in the go second slot and herp derp win. But I think there could be more nuance to it. I didn't hate it personally, but yeah, best of one in Master Duel is definitely, I mean, a huge reason why so many people don't play, and you're just not going to bring those people back. Like ultimately, like if you're a TCG player, you're very likely you're just not playing Master Duel right now, you know? Has it always been like this? Herald, Drytron, Eldritch Stun, Flu, Mathmech, Runic Stun, Sprite. Different top decks have different answers, but some tech cards overlapping and hitting multiples, usually not as effectively. Anytime I'm in doubt, just say screw it and run Pure Engine, attempt to power through it, and then that doesn't work, take a break and come back when you feel like playing again. There are two constant when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh players on this sub: not reading cards and complaining about the newest meta decks. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I guess like it's more egregious right now because the decks are so powerful. Like, yeah, even during, like, Flu Wonder branded Sword Soul format or something, like, yeah, they're the best decks, and they have vastly different cards that you play against them, but they're beatable. That's the main thing. They're beatable. I don't think you're beating Malice with anything that isn't, like, a Floodgate if you lose a coin flip type of thing, right? Or some sort of really powerful lingering card effect. Anyway, interesting discussion. Sound off in the comments, etc. What you think.